in my opinion, one of the hardest things to master and to understand when it comes to manifestation and reality selection and reality shifting. Remember that when you shift, you need to be able to select a reality. The same thing goes for manifestation. You need to be able to have this idea of what you want in your mind, but sometimes your mind is not what you really want. And actually, I find that this happens to a lot of people, particularly if they are heavily embedded in their culture or micro society and haven't really tapped into who they really are, which is why understanding your psyche is a big part of my one-on-one coaching in reality shifting, because it is integral. Because what I have personally found is that you can build a life that has everything that you want. I've done it. And if you're not truly authentic, if you're not truly open to who you really are, if you're not unlocked, you know what happens? You build a life that feels hollow, that feels disconnected. I had a great marriage. I had a fantastic husband. We had the townhome by the metro in Washington, D.C. We had affluence. I was in a prestigious PhD program. We had the cats. Life was great. It actually was great. Was it perfect? No, of course not. But, he was not a bad person. He was not a bad spouse. We had a fantastic relationship and we grew together, and I had everything that I ever wanted. And it still felt hollow. And it still felt like there was a piece of me that was not open. And my heart wasn't open, And so I went off to open my heart and to bring other parts of myself online. And that took me years. And now I'm rebooting my life. And already, even though I have less, I am so much happier. I am so happy just to wake up. I'm vibrating with purpose, and I don't mind that I'm starting at ground zero and building my businesses from the beginning. And I don't mind that right now it's less, because I know where I'm going. And I know that I'm vibrating with everything that I need to pull all of the realities that I envision into fruition. And so now it's a matter of patience and diligence and putting in the time and the effort and the vibration, right? But before I got here, I made a list. I literally made a list, and I was like, I want a partner that is like this. I want a life that is like that. I want da 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 da. Oh, you're not checking my boxes. I'm going to control you to make sure that you check my boxes. Oh, you're not checking my boxes? Okay, well, I'm going to break up with you and find somebody else that's checking my boxes. Wait a second. They're checking my boxes. Why don't I feel the way I imagined I would feel? Oh, that's weird. I'm looking at the boxes as though they're going to make me feel as if I have a partner and a life that looks like this, then I should be happy, right? It's hitting all the buttons. Why am I still not satisfied? Let me do inner work and try to figure that out. This is what we do in our coaching. This is why I say it's integral to the process, because you can manifest all you want and you can do it successfully. And a lot of people do. And what I have observed is that until you unlock who you really are, and this is so hard for people actually, because for some reason, at least where I come from in a binary linear society, we're taught that you can't be a multi-potential being. You can't be sensitive. You need to fit in. You need to like everything in mainstream. And you need to check all the boxes of success, and then you're going to be happy. Ta-da! And then you get there and you're like, wait a second. It doesn't work like that. And when you truly unlock the self, you realize, like, I've had clients that, and these are older clients in their 70s, that literally numbed themselves any way that they could. Psychiatric medicine, drugs in some cases, marriages that were not very fulfilling but that checked all the boxes, redirecting energy into the home and not themselves. And so they get later in life and they realize that they don't even know who they are, but they just feel all of this sadness inside because they've lived this life to somebody else's standards. And there's a person inside that is yearning to be seen, that is yearning to come out and play. And so part of the process of unlocking them is going back and figuring out when they put themselves in a prison and why they put themselves in a prison. And it's sad, actually. I'm thinking of one client in particular who actually cut themselves off from their emotions. They were this highly sensitive, creative being, and they grew up in a very large family where they were not heard, valued, or appreciated, and they learned to invalidate their emotional experience. And as a result, they've given themselves crippling anxiety in adulthood. And managing that through psychiatric medicine, which is what a lot of people do. But because they're so disconnected from their internal being, they're so disconnected from who they are and what they really want, that it manifests in this intense stress at any perceived thing that goes wrong in their external world. It's almost like this symbolic representation of the loss of connection and loss of control that they feel that they have, loss of autonomy, loss of expression deep down inside. And so what happens as a result, there's many ways that this can manifest, right? You end up creating, selecting, and manifesting realities where you have the wealth and the abundance and the stability and the marriage and whatever it looks like for you, right? And everybody has a different template. But when you get there and you cross the finish line, you're like, what? I guess I have to do another marathon? No. This is what happens when people are unconscious about it, though. They just go chasing dream after dream after dream repetitively. And then they get to the vista and they're like, well, this was nice. I got that trophy, I got that accolade, I got the black belt, I got the whatever it is, and then I got the degree, I got the exit on my business. I'm off to the next one. And so when you stop a moment and realize that who you are inside, sometimes you can have all those things and be connected. But oftentimes when we're working with hollow manifestations and hollow realities, what we find is that you don't actually know what your vibe is. So then you're spending all of your energy chasing down the external things, checking the boxes, getting further and further away from yourself. So let me give you a practical example, because I was walking in the park tonight and I saw this beautiful encounter that made me think about this, and with a different perspective and with such clarity. I love this park. I'm in Mexico right now, and parks are a thing here. It's so beautiful because it's wholesome. You know, like you can see couples that have been married for like 50 years and still happily in love, not in a hollow existence, sitting on a park bench on their date night. And you can also see teenagers that are exploring like their first love. And it's so beautiful because like parks are a thing here and it's not scary. And at sundown, you don't have to be worried for your safety. Unlike in some places in the United States where you don't want to be out at dark in a park. Not all places are like that, but you just have to be mindful and you may not want to be walking by yourself. And Mexico is very, very different, at least where I'm at in Mexico. And anyway, so this park that I go to is so beautiful. It has gardens, it has a place for the kids, it has a sports area, it has several sports areas actually, and there's like a little butterfly garden that I like to go and visit with my little baby. But interestingly, if we go too late as the sun is setting, then the butterflies are gone. Do you know where butterflies sleep? This is just a question that has perplexed me for quite some time, for years actually. Where do butterflies go to sleep? And where do they go during heavy rains? Because I think that we're actually in a simulation. And case in point, on my way to the park, before I got there, was walking and I saw a butterfly out of the corner of my eye, and it was in the sky, and then all of a sudden it disappeared. And I thought to myself, if we're in a simulation, then, and these things happen when I call them reality shears, when there's a disruption in continuity in space and time and an object will appear or disappear. It's normal for reality shifters if you're new to the process. I also call these Easter eggs based on some coaching that I received when I was going through this. It's kind of a fun moment and you're like, oh good, all right, it's a signpost that reality shifting is working for you. But if you're new to it, it can be a little unsettling and the mind doesn't like it. This is a continuation of the episode that I recorded last about how the mind has to fixate on something, and when it deviates from that fixation, it doesn't like that whatsoever. Castles in the Sky is a great example of that. And when you see something out of the ordinary, the mind is like, nope, we're gonna just pretend that doesn't exist. Anyway, so after you train yourself, you can allow for these errors to happen, and then they become positive signals that increase the probability of you being able to reality shift more easily or select your manifestations more easily because you'll see these disruptions. Anyway, so I saw one of these butterflies disappear and I was like, maybe there's not a butterfly cave. Maybe we are actually in a simulation and they literally just at dusk disappear. And this would make sense because in Costa Rica during the rainy season, this is when I first thought about it, they would disappear and then the rain would stop. These heavy torrential downpours would stop and then all of a sudden they'd be out again like nothing ever happened. And I was like, where did they go? They're so delicate. Is there like a shelter for butterflies? Like, it's kind of a mystery. Anyway, so I like to go to the butterfly garden, but if I go too late, then the butterflies are gone. But I still go and let my baby smell the flowers and herbs and lavender and things like that. And tonight on the way to the butterfly garden in this nice park, I heard this beautiful music and it sounded like it was an electric guitar. And as I got closer, I realized that it was in this vibe and frequency and melody that was just so capturing for me. It was like, I have this favorite song by this band Tamarin, and it's called Violets in a Pool. That's the song name, Violets in a Pool. And the band's name is Tamarin, and I found them on just some random Spotify suggested playlist a long time ago, years ago. And I was so captured by this music. I was so captured by the vibe. It was just like blew me away, right? And it's so hard to find this vibe. it's just so incredibly challenging to find music like this. And so it was like the guitarist of that band, and I don't know anything about who was playing, but it was like in that vibe, but he was playing by himself with his electric guitar, and it was a little different. It wasn't like exactly like the song. I'll try to link it in the comments if I can, and just in case you're curious. And it was just so magnificent, and he was in flow, and it was magically pulling me into the butterfly garden. And I had so much reverence for it, and I could see that he was like deep into the moment, that as I walked by him, I wanted to compliment him and to encourage him, but he was like really in the moment, so I didn't. And I just enjoyed as I was walking through the butterfly garden with my little baby. And something interesting happened. So first of all, I had a memory, a soul fragment memory, that reminded me of my love for music. And some people, you may also resonate with this, have music in their souls. You know, like it's a self-expression that you have to express yourself in this way. And I do it through singing, and also right now through percussion, mostly in psychedelic ceremonies. But I have this as a facilitator, but I have this vision of co-creating music with somebody that I haven't met yet. And it reminded me of this vision. It reminded me of this manifestation that I put on the back burner. And as I was walking around, I was just like immersed in this magical experience. I heard this woman stop the guitarist and started talking to him. And the vibe just went, it was like a totally different experience, because I could just slightly hear the conversation. And she was talking to him, not about the music, but about his dog, which was a very cute dog, an adorable dog. I also wanted to say hi to the dog, but I was like, this is not an appropriate interruption moment, right? And so what struck me though is that her reticular activating system latched on to not the music, but the dog as the centerpiece, the show-stopping centerpiece. That was her vibe, right? And as a result, she stopped the music, she stopped him in conversation, and totally started talking about what she was resonating with, which was the very cute dog. And for me, I just found it to be so disconnecting. I was actually a little judgmental, because I was like, you broke his flow. You broke the music, you know? I was like, how could you do that? What's going on? Oh my God. And then the conversation was so abrupt relative to the vibe of the music. You know, it felt like small talk. And I overheard something. He was like, yeah, you know, I traveled, da da da, something about the guitar. And she was like, oh, well, it sounds pretty good. And I'm like, it doesn't sound pretty good. It sounds effing amazing. You know, like I found myself defending, you know, like, this is music. This is, how dare you come here with the, it sounds pretty good. The guitar sounds pretty good. No, no, no. This is music. Anyway, so she wandered off after she got a photo of the dog, and I guess the guy, I didn't hear all of it. And as she, you know, walked past me on the other side, I could feel her vibe was very different from my vibe, right? And all vibes are welcome. So it's not like I wasn't welcoming of her vibe, but it reminded me of this contrast experience and how important it is to understand what your vibe is, because you create reality with that, right? And there was a part of me that detected that she wasn't fully authentic, that she was interacting, and I see this a lot. She was drawn, magnetized. He was very magnetic. The music was very magnetic. I don't even know if I could remember what he looks like because the music was so potent. And so I felt as though that she was actually drawn to him for the same reason, but because she wasn't fully opened up in herself, she didn't know how to interact or identify that part of it. And instead, she did what was safe, which was like, oh my God, your dog is so cute. What is your dog's name? Oh, can I get a picture of your dog? But she was there for the same reason, is my feeling. But maybe I'm extrapolating too much. I don't know. This was like a moment in passing, right? The more important thing that I want to relate to you about this example is that it's really important how you show up in your reality. Because imagine for a moment that he was really in flow. You know, I was projecting my feelings, putting myself in his position, not wanting to be interrupted, because when I'm in that state and when I'm in like the making music state, I just want people to receive it around me. I don't want to have a conversation. I don't want to have a small talk conversation, especially. I just don't. And I find it to be like almost abrasive, because it's such like this beautiful, magical experience that you're weaving for other people and sharing space. I don't want any words, actually, most of the time. And so anyway, I felt as though there was a part of me that was projecting my experience onto him. I don't know anything about him, but let's imagine that that projection is true. And now let's imagine that she was actually magnetized to him because she has this, and this is, I know nothing about her. We're just imagining, so we can use it as an example. She saw this as a doorway to a manifestation or a reality that she was vibing with, right? But the way that she showed up was not in the vibration of the vibe that she was drawn to. And so what does that do? This is really important for you to understand. What does that do? It repels him. It repels the person that is creating that vibe. So then, can she shift or stick that reality or catalyze that manifestation? It's much harder, right? So this is why, in order to really understand how you're manifesting reality in your life, you have to really understand what is your vibe. What is the vibe that you are attracted to? And is there a disconnect? How are you behaving when your manifestation comes to you, or when you are drawn to your manifestation? Because I'm telling you, I find myself still struggling with this, where I have this inauthentic persona that sometimes will come back on and will come back online, and it is a barrier to interacting with people in the way that I want to interact with. And so the resonance of authenticity, your authenticity, is really important to understand, especially when you are in the presence of somebody or something that you're vibing with. And very often when there's a disconnect, it's because you either don't know what your vibe is, and so your selection, who you're spending time with, how you're investing your money. I know somebody, I'm thinking of somebody in particular. We're Instagram friends, one of my artist channels, and she's going through something really challenging where she's hired a business coach, but she feels that there's a disconnect because she wasn't listening to her intuition. And she was selecting with her mind, oh, this sounds like a good idea. So as a result, she was having some negative feelings about whether or not she invested properly, whether or not she was going to continue, because it was not vibing with her, right? And this problem, she's already solved it. This problem could have been solved if she checked in with her intuition to feel if the vibe was actually a match. And so many times our unhappiness in life, again, just one example, but it manifests many, many different ways. Our unhappiness and our realities come from this disconnect. It's so powerfully important to understand because it's actually a driving factor in how your reality manifests, because what you're drawn to and then how you show up. Like, for example, I was walking, I don't know, a couple days ago. I had an outfit that I really like on, and there was somebody that was passing me, a gentleman, and he smiled. I smiled back, and then I was receptive to him, and then he says, "Hey, baby." And I was like, record scratch. I don't want that type of attention. It was like, don't talk to me that way. And the energy that he was talking to me with was totally not a match, right? It was just not a match. And the outfit I was wearing was flowy. It was not provocative. It was more on the elegant side, elegant, flowy, chic side, not like the sexy clubbing side or anything like that. And so his vibration to me repelled me. And I hope I never see him again because I was not welcoming that. When we were just with the smile, I was fine with the smile. But so how you show up repels your manifestations or attracts or has a inert, neutral vibration. And so when you understand what your vibe is, you need to make sure that you are authentically expressing that vibe outwardly. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. And they get scared to actually be authentic. They get scared to actually push away. This gets into another episode that we need to talk about. You need to push away what doesn't vibe with you. And you need to attract what vibes with you. And there is almost like this secret sauce formula that everybody should learn that I don't know how to articulate in the remaining time that I have left, but you need to learn it because it's so important, because you need to clear the space to allow for the vibrations that you want into your life. So you need to be able to say no. You need to push people out. You need to shut down the doors. You need to engage properly when those manifestations are coming to you or when you are attracted or magnetized. So to wrap up this story, as I was leaving the butterfly garden, I went up just a little bit to the musician who was back in flow, and I raised my hands in the namaste position, and I nodded, and I said, "Thank you." I gestured, and then I could see that he was receptive, so I said, "Magnificent," and with a little, like kissing my fingertips, like the Italians do, like, mwah, like, excelente. I was like, "Magnificent." And then I walked off. And I wanted him to feel like the music was honored and appreciated, but without interruption, because that is the vibe that I was carrying and that was authentic to me. So listen, if you are interested in discovering who you are, how you are creating reality and shifting into it, and if you want to have a catalyst to help you understand that process better, I am a reality shifting coach. It's much more than that, but that is the tagline that I'm going with for now. And you can reach out to me. My email is sacredjourneyproductions@gmail.com. Okay, we'll talk soon.